Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dionne.
That's all right.
I am very excited to have you here and to get into this conversation for quite a few reasons. I just feel like your position as an engineer and as an athlete doesn't usually get a spotlight in the conversation when it comes to like entrepreneurship and business, because we usually just focus on we focus on that, but also focus on the artists and the creatives and the people who are on a grind but who are kind of on a loud grind, whereas training for the Olympics or for a games like the Commonwealth Games, that's quite a quiet, consistent, head down and focus grind, which isn't too loud, because you don't need to be loud in that situation. You need to quietly win, and that's probably going to be part of the strategy. So I'm super excited to be having an opportunity to speak with you and to just shed light on a new perspective for me, and hopefully a new perspective for people listening. So for yourself, what does the grind mean?
For me, the grind means you're constantly doing something. There's constantly something always in motion. One of them, or if you've got multiple things going on, one of them may stop, but something is always constantly ticking over. I don't believe we should ever be idle. There should always be growth. There should always be something that you can look back on and say, wow, I've come this far. Even if you had to stop something, at least you can say you made that decision because you were going to do something else. So the grind to me means constantly in motion, like it's like cogs to me, like clockwork, constantly ticking over, doing something.
And do you feel like the grind kind of crosses over the personal and professional, or do you feel like they're two very distinctive, different types of grinds?
I definitely think it crosses over in some things, but at the same time it can be separate. I feel like when I'm at my 9-to-5 job, I don't so much see it as a grind because I've done the work that got me there. That was university, that was my degree, that was me going for the interview. I'm there. However, for something that I see myself in the future, that's the grind. So it's not so much at the 9-to-5 job. I'm grinding because there's something else I'm trying to achieve. But you know, my work, I love my work. I love my job. If I didn't have my job, I don't think I could be a full-time athlete all the time. So in the back of that, I'm doing my athletics, which is the grind to get me to where I want to be. But my job is my love at the same time.
So let's talk about your job a little bit. So you've been an engineer since you was 15.
Pretty much,
So how did that come about? What was home like at 15 and the household? How did you be so avid so young about being an engineer?
I went to a local school called Wentzfield High, and it was that year when I turned 15 that they were turning it into an engineering school, which would be like one of the first in the city. And you know, they were bringing in things like BTEC, engineering, design, and I was like, okay, don't even know what that is, but I'll pick BTEC. It sounds great. I'm a hands-on person. And my mum was like, no, I've heard that, you know, there's a young apprenticeship scheme, because there was a guy there that spoke to my mum at parents' evening, and he must have pulled her to the side and said, I really want your daughter to be on the young apprenticeship scheme. And I was like, what's that? And basically the young apprenticeship scheme was you basically lose a GCSE because you're going to go out on one-day release to college, and you're going to learn the soft skills of an engineer. So you're going to go into a workshop, you're going to learn to use machinery, you're going to learn how to handle different materials, but then you come back in the other day of the week where you would have your other GCSE and you do the theory. So I wasn't sold on it, because I was like, well, that you've taken away my other love of another GCSE, like art, like that. And my mum was just like, please give it a try. If you don't, then go back to the BTEC. And I think I was one of 3 girls that picked. It's about 15 of us. I was one of 3 girls, and the other 2 ended up dropping out. I was the only one that made it through to the end. And you know what? I loved it, because I said I was hands-on. I think if I'd have just stuck to the theory side of things, I wouldn't have loved it. But I love the fact that I was learning and hands-on at the same time. And at the end of it, I had a certificate to say I can actually go into a workshop and use this machinery. I didn't know where I was going to lead from there. But straight away from there, I was able to go and get work experience. I went to work for Bentley for a week. Then when I did that, I then went to work for Goodrich for 2 weeks. The opportunities just kept coming, and I was like, wow, like people talk about engineering, but they've never said all these different avenues you could take, because that's aerospace, that's motors, that's cars, and then from there, I was just never without, you know, even if I tried to divert into another area of work, engineering just kept pulling me back. So that's just where I've been. I've just kept consistently growing in this sector of work.
Yeah, that's a beautiful contribution, because I feel like, you know, your story's unique, your situation's unique, and the fact that you've seen other women and girls kind of drop off as you've continued, I think to stick there and kind of question yourself and to say, actually, is this what I want? Actually, I'm good at this. Actually, I like it. It makes me happy. I want to stay, and there's something bigger there for me. I think that's a beautiful thing. What would you say to someone who's on a come up right now, who's either trying to get into your field, your area of work, or someone who's just on a grind, just trying to get somewhere in life? They might not be sure yet.
Cliche, but know your worth. I think throughout this industry, I have had to, sometimes I kind of sat back and thought, you know, why should I do this work experience? Why should I go out and volunteer? Every little thing that I have done has got me to here. And because of who I am, being a black woman in engineering, which is rare already, there is no reason why I cannot have the same opportunities as everybody else, if not more. Allow your voice to be heard. I never used to be confident in it, and at first I didn't even know me being a black woman in engineering was a thing. Like,
you were just being you.
I was just being me because I was like, I love it. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes people try to steer you and be like, you don't really love it. You're not always going to be an engineer because you're just doing it because you're not. No, not at all. I really love it. If I wouldn't have done it for nearly how many 10, 11, 12 years.
So what do you see the future looking like for your area and your field?
I would like to see more women in engineering. I'd like to see people going into schools. It's something that I'm passionate about, and I do it as part of my STEM, going into schools, teaching young children about the different routes of engineering, you know, the benefits of it, what you can do, you know, how you can get there. You don't have to go to university, you can do an apprenticeship, go and get work experience. I would love to see more women in engineering, because it's sad, because at the moment, you know, we're recruiting, and I said to my manager, you know, have you had any women? And he was like, no, this time. So I automatically know there's another man coming to the team that's 3-4 men, 1 woman. Like, it would just be nice to be able to see an interview,
a bit of balance.
And see a woman at least apply. You know, because.
So what do you think that is? What do you think other than the perceptions of it being a dirty job or a hard physical industry, and maybe people are put off by that? What else could it be? What do you think it's something about how the industry is recruiting? Is the industry going into schools? Are businesses and companies in engineering, do they need to be doing more community workshops? Does there need to be more governmental support? Does the council need to do something? Like, what is the gap, and why is it not happening? Why aren't young girls going into that profession as much? I mean, I from sitting here now having the conversation, I don't know all the stats, so I could just be pulling that out from nowhere. I'd have to do a bit of research to make sure that that's true. But maybe, I don't know, what do you think on that? Do you think that there is a specific thing, or there's a gap, or?
I definitely think there's more to do in terms of going into schools and educating from young, you know, give them the opportunity like I had. I think they stopped that young apprenticeship scheme pretty much a year after I left, and all of us, all the men that I know, because we're still friends to this day, became engineers. Some of them are working 3 days a week on money that you can't even count, because they were able to take that young apprentice and just keep growing. Like, and after that they just went straight back to BTEC, and I was like, no, give them a skill. I think it's so easy to be all about education and theory and knowing it, and but can you do it? Can you apply it? Because what sells me in my area of work is the fact that I don't have to go and call somebody to say, oh, can you come and drill a hole for me, please? I need this 5mm hole with this 8mm screw, and I'm able to go and say, pass me the drill, I will go and do it. Because do it. And don't get me wrong, I don't always know how to do it. Sometimes I'm like to my manager, oh, can you help me? And he's like, go and learn. Give someone a hand-on skill, and that can take them far, because now I have my own house. There's jobs that I can do. I don't have to go and would have been surprised, I don't have to spend the money on someone else to do it.
As we was preparing and connecting before the interview, I asked you to kind of send me some of your top 5 ambitions, and you just touched on one of them, the fact that you're a homeowner at 28.
28,
How does that make you feel? Because that's a big goal, sis.
Oh my God, listen, you know what, it's crazy, because all my family members are like that, my one of my younger cousins, she bought hers at 24.
Okay,
and I remember the day she posted it on Instagram, and I was like, wait, if she can do it at 24,
yeah,
I can do it.
yeah,
I can definitely do it. And it was literally write out a plan, you make a budget, and you just stick to it.
yeah,
And I had a really good mortgage broker, and we were speaking, and I was like, okay, how much do I need? Because the banks are saying 10%. He said, you don't actually need the 10%, Dionne. You might do now in this, where we are now, but he says, you don't. He says, come to me when you have this amount of money and we will make it work. And, you know, I remember driving around, I said, yeah, I want to live in Wolverhampton. I was driving around an area with my mom, and she was like, oh, if you can live down here, Dionne, like, you'd be laughing, because it didn't seem like the typical Wentzfield, like council houses, not knocking them, but she was like, if you want a nice quiet area, and like, if you can live in this area, live. And, you know, I saw a few houses, I was like, no, that's not it, no, not in my budget. And then one day I saw this house on Zoopla, and I was like, that area looks familiar. And me and my partner drove down there, and I was like, wait, this is the area Mum was saying.
No
like
way.
And we went inside the house, and I was like, oh, not sure. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna put an offer in, and they accepted it. And the process went so fast.
Yeah.
And before I knew, I had the keys in my hands, and I was like, I'm 27,
really
and the house is mine. And I remember my manager saying to me, wait, Dionne, you know the house that you just purchased, you doing it by yourself? And I was like, yeah, like, listen, when you get those keys and you put the key in the door, just even in the evenings when I say, yeah, I'm going home, like, there is nothing better. It's the best investment I've ever made.
Yeah, that's amazing.
100%.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
And that's what I was saying to you, was catching up, like, that's goals for myself, and that's goals for a lot of people watching. Getting on the property ladder is a big accomplishment, especially someone who is coming from a freelance background, or they're not in a stable position yet, or they're just not where they want to be yet.
Yeah, of course.
It's goals, so yeah, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, man, have a game
more
plan.
Blessings.
Yeah, just, if that's the goal, do it. Like, don't deter. Even if it takes a few longer than you expected, do it.
Yeah. So what does failure mean to you? Do you see failure as a negative automatically? Do you see it as a positive? I know that must be an interesting one when you put that in relation to your training as an athlete, because I believe you can win, and I believe you will win every time.
Thank you.
I'm aware that there's sometimes where we learn lessons along the process, so they could be seen as failures to some people if you've got that perspective, or they could be seen as lessons learned, wins still. So what's your take on failure, and what do you think about it?
I'm a very emotional person. Like, I cry at the tiniest of things, and if I see that something is not going my way, I can be a wallower. Do you call them a person that wallows in it for a little while? Or
lament is another word as
well.
Or
lament. I really, it takes me back, especially when I was so sure that concrete plan would work to get me there. And I'm 28 now, and a lot of people will look down and say, like, is she really going to make the Olympics? Like, you got to be younger than that. Like, your body's not going to hold you for much longer. And it's, you know what, like, failure to me, it hits me big, especially, like I said, if I don't achieve what I set out to. But that's when I hold on to faith, because God is a big part of my life. Be prayerful, be consistent, you know, speak to him, read my Bible. Those are the basics to that. And every time I have failed, go back to the source, because just because it was no right now does not mean it's a no for good. It's just maybe not now.
So how do you connect sports with the rest of the world? Like, you know, I'm an artist and a songwriter, so I believe everything is about music and songs, and that connects through everything, and there's always a song that's going to be relevant. Music's always going to be relevant.
Yeah, you'll never be without.
Yeah. Do you feel the same for sport? Do you feel like it kind of impacts the world in the same way? Because, like, games like the Commonwealth Games are amazing for bringing unity, global unity together, and it can be quite powerful if you're looking at it from that perspective. How do you feel about that?
I definitely believe sport is a big thing. Like, I don't know what I would do without it. There's some people that don't do anything. Like, it worries me when I say to a person, do you go to the gym? No. Do you play a sport? No. Like, what do you do? Like, because it's not even just about doing the sport, it's about what it's also giving you, like your mindset, your discipline. You can get that in other areas of life, and if you are, great, but that's what it's taught me. And like you said, unity as well. Like, you know, being able to see people in different lights. There's Paralympians. You know, I went to Loughborough University, which is a sports university, and that was where I had my first experience of seeing people without limbs and training. And sometimes you can get in awkward, you know, conversation, but you're in awe at the same time. That person didn't even allow what they went through to stop them, and they're winning medals. If you're not inspired by that, I don't know what else.
I think up close that would blow me away as well.
It really does. When you see it, it's a different thing to see it on TV. When you see it in person, you see how they train and how they've had to adapt and what they have to do. You're in awe. You really are in awe, and that's why I think it's such a big thing. And you know, it's sad when things like, you know, drugs or the social media, it kind of like crumbles a little bit at the foundation, because they're saying, well, if that person's done it and got here, like who's clean? But because I've seen some of the real life people who have won medals train for it,
you know, it's there, and you know
it's there. People have it like as a normal thing, but I definitely think it's such a big thing. It may not to someone else, it may not be. I think sports is a big thing. I definitely think it's given me some of the characteristics and attributes that I have. You know, my mindset, my consistency. Even if I stopped athletics tomorrow, my diet would still probably be 90% clean, because it's all I've ever known. My mindset on not to quit, being, you know, consistent, having courage, because there's been races where I've chickened out because of who's in the race, but it's courage. I've learned to have courage.
Do you have to be aligned spiritually to receive well in business, or can, you know,
because it's all I've ever known, I wouldn't know where else to look. You know what I mean? And if it's ever let me down, if God has ever let me down, I've never felt like I've needed to go and look somewhere else, because like I said, that is my foundation. It's all I've ever known. But I don't knock people if they look towards other things, you know, spirituality. I have friends, not all my friends are Christians. I have seen from different areas of what people believe in, and as I've got older, I realised I can't knock them, because if that is what they're saying is what's connecting them and what's helping them to get where they are and what they've got, then so be it. But I know, as for me, some of the things that have happened to me, it can only be God. Like, for example, I remember my first year of university being an engineer. I failed my exams, and they said, you know, you got to resit, but if you resit and you don't pass, you have to either drop off this course and go somewhere else, or leave the uni. And I was in tears, like, oh my gosh, I've got all the way here through engineering, how can I get to uni? And now they're telling me that this may not even be, I don't have a second choice. Like, there is no other thing to do. And because Loughborough was my dream uni for athletics and for engineering. And I remember my mum calling up. My mum's quite a powerful force in my life. Like, she rang the uni and was like, is there not any way that you can just recheck the paper? And I remember the lady saying to her, we can't, like, the paper's gone, like, we've given it away, like, that's it, that's the final score. She said, no, please go back to the papers and just remark. And then if she has to resit the exam, because I had 2 and both of them were 3-hour exams and you had to pay. And I remember the woman said, okay, I'll see what I can do, Miss Johnson, but, you know, so my mum was like, you need to go and pray. That's all I'm going to tell you. She goes, I've done my part, you do yours. And I was like, okay. So I went and prayed, you know, about it. I was in tears. I was like, man, I'm going to have to think about something else. I'm going to have to go and get a job. Like, university, it could be over. And the lady rang back within the week and she was like, Miss Johnson, we've remarked the paper and we found marks that we actually missed. We missed a whole page that we hadn't marked.
Wow.
And she was like, we'll see you in year 2. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I never failed an exam again. That was it. I was just like, listen, if that was not a wake-up call to say, stop messing around, God was like, I have your back.
So on a day when you don't feel yourself, what do you tell yourself?
Oh.
How do you get back up?
I suffer with low moods, have done for the past couple of years. So every now and again, I get that hit where I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to talk to no one. I just don't feel this. I'm not feeling that. This isn't working. I have to tell myself mindset. Since investing, because I just started Forex trading, investing, there is something that we have to write down. Your affirmations. And I was never really a believer in affirmations because, like I said, I'm more into my praying and Bible reading, but there is nothing wrong with speaking into yourself. It was weird at first, But to get up every day and just be like, I am grateful for, what are you grateful for, Dionne? I have a car that's getting me to work. I am grateful for that I'm able to see my mom daily. I have a sister that looks up to me as a role model. I am grateful for that I have a job because there's so many people that don't during this pandemic. I am grateful for to be able to wake up every day and do things that I love. I am grateful for my home. Like, they're little things that make me look at whatever I'm facing in that moment and say, it's not that bad.
Yeah, man, I'm proud of you, and thank you so much for coming to sit and join us to talk today. And yeah, stay blessed. I'm wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.